I don't know what the point of litigating this is per se, but
well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hasan and how this schism. Well, let me show you this.
I don't care.
Yeah,
about,
I know.
Honestly, I'm like
Let me show you this. This is more.
I honestly. Like,
yeah, you don't care. I know.
I don't care. I don't.
And why should you? I don't blame you. So let me show you an example of something. And again, I know you don't care about the drama. To me, this isn't drama. This is one of the biggest, most influential streamers spreading something that I think is really dangerous. And you can agree or disagree, but it's a short clip, but I'll show it to you. And you tell me what you think.
It's clip chimped. This will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting. Yep. If they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Now, by the way, he didn't misspeak. He doubled down on it yesterday. He said, no, I agree. That's what I think. Now, just to recap, he says, anyone that's had positive feelings at any point about the state of Israel is a neo-Nazi that's not fit to be a dog walker. Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people you know in your family.
I'll tell you, there's some hyperbole there, but
that's putting it mildly.
I don't want my fucking Zionist family members to be in office either.
And I'll tell you what I think is really...
Sorry, I got to correct you. He says Zionism, and then he says, if you had positive feelings about the state of Israel at any point in your life.
I got to tell you, if you look at what's happening right now, and you have positive feelings about Israel.
He said at any point in your life, Sam. Just to be clear, about what he said.
Don't try to fucking.
Would I have said at any point in his life, someone's life? But I just think this is such a petty, like the idea that we're going to police. Hold on, let me respond. You want me to respond to this?
No,
like I say, I don't care about this. But if you're going to force me to respond to it. What Israel is doing right now is so far beyond the idea that someone says any time in your life or not or whatnot. He's talking about Zionism, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for me.
Maybe Sam needs more context to see how vitriolic Hasan is.
Understand how someone could have positive feelings at this time. Now you want to say in the past and what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I will grant you at any time in your life that is
That's not what I said.
Too broad a step. But wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
But see, you go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism by doing this hopscotch about
they're sending skulls to the man's house.
Poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic. And honestly, that type of conflation,
your background,
I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous. I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about this, but I will tell you something. I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah, sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times, call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. Now, this is just one, that is just an example, an illustration of conflating when he's clearly talking about Zionism. Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews.
Yes.
It is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men, for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation, Ethan, is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time.
He's right.
Look, you do a show
Sam,
4 hours a day. He does a show 5 or, as far as I can tell, 15 hours a day. And to focus in on that one tiny clause.
This is not one tiny clip, Sam. You don't know. This is a totality of behavior.
But you.
And by the way, it's easy. And I appreciate that you
anything.
can hand wave it away and say that it doesn't.
No, I'm not hand waving it away.
Well, you kind of are.
I'm saying this.
You're saying it doesn't. You're saying actually I'm wrong.
You know exactly what I mean there.
In fact, I'm saying this conflation is incredibly dangerous.
It
is disingenuous.
I think it's dangerous
right now,
to ignore what's being
stress
described as
importance of
dehumanizing violent language for American
Jews in
Jews.
Israel.
That have nothing to do with the
That
war.
is a complete mischaracterization of it.
And that is
It's
what's
not.
dangerous.
He's not fit to be a dog walker.
He never says the word
He
Jews.
says a neo.
Listen, how many members of Kufi have positive feelings towards Israel?
Let me say.
How many millions
that are
of members of
pro-Israel than there are
Kufi,
Jews around the
the
world?
Christian organization,
Thank you.
have
Thank
positive
you for
feelings for
doing
Jews?
this.
It is clearly not a function of their Judaism. It is not a function of their Judaism, and so
But
is
it
not
describes
specifically.
most Jews.
Perhaps these people will not
Yes, it
finally
does,
understand.
It describes most Christian evangelicals too.
It may do them too, but it also describes 73%
so
of
that
Jews.
is not anti-Semitism. That is about
I don't know.
a
What do
belief.
you call it when somebody's discriminating against the vast majority of a racial or religious group, Sam?
I'm sorry. You want to look at evangelical Jews?
I don't care about evangelical
Too.
people.
Okay, but I'm talking about the way you're constructing this.
I think
you can say the same thing about Christian evangelicals too. It is not anti-Semitism.
I wouldn't be able to have this conversation because Ethan would just be like, "You're a Jew hater. You're a Jew hater. You're a Jew hater."
In isolation, which is what we've done here.
Well, you're the one who gave it to me.
Yeah, well,
I don't even want to talk about it,
I disagree
but I'm
with you.
using your example, and in that instance, that is not anti-Semitism.
Well, I disagree.
Conflation. Okay, well, that's our disagreement.
Yeah.
But I think that conflation is incredibly dangerous.
Well, I disagree as well.
For Jews,
I think
it's dangerous for this society.
Why would he?
I think,
even
frankly,
claim to be
I think it's
anti-Zionist on the
dangerous
news? Why would he claim to be
to what
pro-Palestine
I
after this?
perceive as hand waving what's happening here. I know you said you aren't doing
I'm
that.
not hand waving. This
you're doing the opposite. You're endorsing
decades of thought about this.
So right, sure. But the point is, you're saying that this is not dangerous. How dare you care about this? I think it's dangerous
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I personally, I mean,
I'm
Jewish
saying
people
the
have a collective
mischaracterization
memory of
of it
trauma,
as
Sam, and it
anti-Semitism.
starts a
What are you
certain
saying?
way,
He's
and it starts with
talking
people.
about the
It
Holocaust
starts
now.
with
The Seder.
dehumanizing language, like saying
Oh
you're
my
not
God,
fit
he's
to
talking
walk
about-
a
he's
dog.
invoking the
I mean, what are we
Holocaust.
what are we
He's
doing
not
here?
talking
It's
about Jews.
irresponsible
This is
language.
Hasbara.
He's not talking about
He's
Jews.
talking about 73% of Jewish
no,
people.
No, you said that.
No, that's a poll that's readily available.
No, you made that connection. He did not. Because we have millions upon millions of members of Kufi. We have millions upon millions in this country of evangelicals who also believe the same thing.
Does your dad
and
have?
You cannot say it's
could you
anti-Semitism.
Could you
You
describe
cannot say it's anti-Semitism if you're also including millions upon millions, far more Christians.
If he wants his
Jews.
dad to be appointed to local office, and Sam would say no.
Your father, who you mentioned, said something to you that he's ever in his life had positive feelings about the state of Israel.
I've had positive feelings of Israel.
Well, does your dad have any positive feelings about it now?
I would assume so.
Not in terms of like I support them, but
I've
like
had
I think
positive
Israel.
feelings. I went to Israel on.
Okay, good. Then you're a neo-Nazi, not fit to walk a dog. How do you feel about that?
No, that's you saying that.
That's
that is
literally
not
what he said. I'll play it again.
No. Thank you.
I think like this will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Another thing he's doing, by the way, and Hasan does this.
Listen,
he plays around with the term Zionists, right?
You can say that's a wrong thing to say, but he's not talking about Jews.
Yes.
He's talking about people who have exhibited these positive feelings, and that includes millions upon millions of Christians.
Yes.
More Christians.
Okay, well, listen, I don't
think your background.
He's not fit to walk dogs, either.
Yes,
I think it's
no
insane
local
language.
office
Listen,
positions.
you don't want to tell me that you have never engaged in hyperbole. You and I both are in this
It's not
business,
just
and we do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just think that you know,
it's you know. I
just think that like
to say it's an unfair thing.
I just think like Arabs that support Israel aren't fit to walk a dog.
It is not anti-Semitism.
Okay, well we're at an impasse on this one.
No, the dog walker is a local.
But anyway,
it's a fucking colloquialism that Felix Biederman,
he's
also
someone that
Jewish,
plays around with Zionism. He calls me a Zionist, and again, I know we're arguing here about semantics of what Hasan said, but I don't think that you could accurately characterize me as that, as it's used colloquially. You don't know, right? But he's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean? What's a Zionist tendency?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to talk to him on Friday. You can ask him what a Zionist tendency is. I suppose I would guess. And, you know, like I've looked at polls too, where, you know, people have various different understandings of what Zionism is. Why is he trying to debate me
on this?
But I think it is
Hasan up so much.
My guess,
trying to fight Hasan through
and I don't know what he was thinking specifically.
Watch
but
Ethan back away from our supposed
state
debate on Friday now, because now he didn't get what he wanted out of Sam.
Whatever in the name of Zionism allows this mass slaughter, I think is horrific.
Sure,
and he's not able to extract. He's not able to extract what he wanted out of Sam.
Disagree on that regard.
Yeah, I think we're so. Another thing is like to take it even further. I mean, Hasan pretty much like openly supports Hamas.
Let's not talk about Hasan. Let's talk about this.
Sure. I mean, what do you want to ask me?
Well, I mean, if you want to ask me about, I mean,
I think he's gonna back away now that he's not getting what he wanted.
I'm not here to explore.
I have a list of things that.
But if you want to talk about Hamas, I mean, I think look.
Well, how do you feel about Hamas?
I feel that Hamas, people can perceive it as a liberation organization. We call them terrorists in this country. We call the ANC terrorists.
What do you think about them, Sam?
Listen, I think there are parts, I would imagine, of Hamas that have done good for the people in Gaza, and I think they have done bad things. But I sort of feel, I guess, ultimately probably like Ehud Barak when he said that were I Palestinian and I was living in Gaza, that it would be likely that I would join Hamas. I mean, that's what Ehud Barak said on multiple occasions. And I think that is very...
That is the exact same opinion as I do.
An understanding of human nature.
Saying it from a perspective
that you're not supporting Israelis, by the way, just to point out an inconsistency there.
Because he can't fucking hit him on this.
Well, you're not. You're like, I refuse to understand human nature and their reaction. It's just evil, and I don't know how to explain it.
I didn't use the word evil.
Right. I'm inferring because I asked you if you think they're evil, and you didn't really answer that.
His audience thinks
I don't know what Gazans felt on October 8th, but toward Hamas. But I can tell you that we have there is a long history of terrorist organizations or so-called terrorist organizations like the ANC or the IRA. Even the PLO,
now, Sam,
that ultimately become a political organization.
I think the comparison to Hamas to what happened in South Africa is insanely disingenuous. And I personally hate when people do that.
I mean, Mandela didn't think so.
Well, Mandela did think so. He explicitly stated that he avoided committing violence on the citizenry because it would make reunification impossible.
Twice they asked Nelson Mandela, if you disavow
violence,
we will let you go free.
In the totality of their campaign,
you are wrong.
I think under 200 civilians died. And the people who did kill civilians were almost all held accountable for what they did. That's a difference.
Why is he lying about this?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that
a significant difference.
He stayed in prison. His
prison
sentence was
a significant difference. I mean, I imagine many of those people who committed atrocities on October 7th are dead now. And so
what does that have to do with anything?
Well, that's accountability.
Being killed? Okay. I mean, being held accountable by the party that they're presumably doing the violence on behalf. But
you're saying the entire ANC was held accountable?
No, it's saying Nelson Mandela's party, if someone killed a civilian, they would hold them accountable. They would charge them. They would disavow their actions.
That's not true.
The ANC did.
Yes.
I will tell you.
People look at South Africa.
I do not condone the killing of civilians, which is why obviously I'm upset about what Israel is doing.
Sure. The part that I don't like about people say. I feel like people sweep for Hamas by saying, what do you expect,
MK,
right?
paramilitary wing of the
truth
ANC
is that people
bombing campaign that
use
killed 19
South
people,
Africa as an
200.
example, but what South Africa shows is that you don't need to commit a violent war against civilians to liberate yourself.
They were violent!
Well, I mean, listen, we had, for a year, we had the Great March of Return, where, Sinwar himself was involved in that. There was Palestinians marching on a regular basis over the course of the year. I don't know how many it was, 50 or whatever, that were innocent people who went there, and snipers are shooting down unarmed civilians. And so, time and time again, and over the course of the 20 years that I've been professionally,
that's the reason
covering
why he went to prison.
My attitude towards Israel's willingness to have peace has changed, and my understanding of it has changed. And I can only imagine how more intense that feeling is to be living in a place that is, functionally like, the Warsaw Ghetto, insofar as you don't have access to resources, you have 50% unemployment. The apartheid that is taking place in terms of the West Bank. I mean,
I agree with those characterizations, by the way, Sam. Just to say,
but I can't imagine that my response wouldn't be to pick up a weapon.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
It's not really working out.
Well, none of it's working out, is it?
No, not much at all. Not really much at all.
It's called the greatest attack on Israelis in 75 years. The notion of Zionism and the way that Israel is organized as a society is not protecting Jews.
Well,
it's not protecting Israelis. It's not protecting Jews worldwide. It is, there may have been a time where Zionism and there were certainly proponents of Zionism in the early 20th century, in the late, perhaps late 19th century, where there was a notion of a multi-ethnic democracy that fell by the wayside. Folks like Hannah Arendt and Einstein, left the Zionist Congress, and what it has evolved into is, I think, a nightmare for everyone involved. And so, I don't know how I would react in that type of immiseration, frankly.
Well, can I ask you?
But again, Ehud Barak said that he would pick up a weapon were he one of them. And
that's fine.
He's far closer to the conflict than I am.
I'm not saying I don't understand why people pick up weapons. Right? So let me ask you this. What do you think about October 7th attack? By the way, there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza?
You think that's a good point?
There's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza?
Oh, no, he's doing hospital points. Oh, Sam's going to cook him.
I just think that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up.
What would a 3,000-pound bomb do to a bomb shelter?
Do I think it's fucked up?
Do you think Israel would stop themselves from blowing up a bomb shelter?
I'm not sure I understand the point.
Well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean, they would definitely be a lot safer.
Dude, they have 2,000. They have bunker busters. They've used bunker busters on fucking refugee camps. They've used bunker busters on hospitals. Why the fuck would they stop themselves from using it on a fucking bomb shelter?
The first one that they went into, they built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you right? That's true of that one. But I mean, they have a vast tunnel network, obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this. The $1 million question is what can we do? Now it's obviously insanely difficult to say.
I think we can stop aid immediately. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen under Trump.
I'm in favor of that, by the way.
Don't fucking move on. Don't move on. Oh my God.
Okay. I mean, good.
I mean, I just think
we should call for all aid to be ceased. And I think we should stop protecting them in the
What
UN.
should have Israel done on October 8th, I guess? Like, what would have been an appropriate response for their government?
Not kill Israeli citizens within the Gaza envelope. in a hope that Hamas could not hold them kidnapped.
On October 8th, I mean, I think that I think that there is...
Concede to the positions of Hamas.
They're hitting strategic sites to attempt to take out leadership. They should have... But let's talk, like...
Well, the leadership was underground.
Yeah, to look at that, that moment in history,
genocide,
like maybe it was...
I disagree, because they had to do something.
Maybe in that moment...
Why are there...
they had to go in and bomb or whatever they do. I think that any action that they would have taken at that point, frankly, was a function of literally decades of oppressing people and attempting to bring this to an eventuality.
Right.
I mean, this was.
I can't believe.
And so, what should they have done?
I can't believe his audience legitimately and Ethan thought
you're
that
avoiding,
like Sam would agree with.
Okay,
them
I think what they should have done
is
is
so
begun
shocking.
Empowering
anyone who's knowledgeable on this issue that isn't fucking brain broken
This is
from
my favorite
Zionism
answer,
is
Sam.
100% going to
that
have these exact
this is what
same
Hasan told
opinions.
me.
What
They
the
should
fuck?
disband their government and lift the borders in response to the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened.
I think honestly, when you see that your policies have failed, but I don't think this
You
was
actually
their
don't believe
agenda.
that that's a real thing, though. I'm interested in having like a real conversation. You can't like live in a fairy tale land where, in response to the worst military or terrorist attack of all time, Israel, who's already, as you state, like genocidal and racist and all these terrible things, is going to lift their borders and disband their government.
Well, wait a second. You're asking me what they should have done, and that's different.
No, in a
from
realistic way, not in a fairy
tale,
tale, Sam.
Well, listen, there is no realistic thing. Their agenda has been, it has been quite clear. Their agenda has been, since Ariel Sharon walked on the Temple Mount and tried to scuttle peace talks, the agenda since the assassination of Rabin by arch Zionists in Israel, the agenda has been to bring about this moment. There is no doubt about it. The annihilation of the Palestinian people has been an agenda in Israel for far too long. So from the perspective, it's anything I say is fantastical relative to what they would actually do. Anything.
There's nothing they could have done that because of the situation, anything they would have done would have been.
Poor Israel, man.
There was no plan that on this day they were going to do this.
I feel so bad for Israel for 76 years of apartheid. They just had no other
into
option but to do
Netanyahu's
genocide.
brain,
That is the
idea
logical
that this is
conclusion of
ultimately
Ethan's
going
argument,
to
by the way.
happen
That is how
was
crazy this
definitely
is.
the agenda.
What, in terms of like
Find a
attacking
way,
Gaza or inciting
find
an
a way,
attack?
I would imagine both, frankly. But to find a way to eliminate the Palestinians, this has been the agenda of at one time what I think was a smaller segment of the Israeli body politic, and I think has increasingly become an even larger portion of the Israeli politic. So I mean, anything I say in terms of should is fantastical. Anything.
So yeah, okay. I mean, so this is like I understand where you're coming from, right? Like
there was an opportunity for a ceasefire that was called in November, in December. They could have held a ceasefire at any point, and the amount of killing would have been far less. They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
How could have Hamas ended the war?
By releasing the hostages?
No, listen. Israel has said time and time again that release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said this over
I don't believe
and
that's
over and over.
I haven't seen those statements. I've seen the opposite. I believe that
you really haven't seen those statements?
No, I haven't. I'll review them. I mean, it depends when it depends when they were made too, right?
Like, is it hostage family protests in Israel, Ethan? It's because the Netanyahu government doesn't want to release the hostages because they want to keep using the hostages as a reason to keep bombing Gaza because they want to ethnically cleanse the Gaza population. They want to ethnically cleanse the fucking Gaza Strip. You're so stupid.
Coming into Gaza.
Why are you so stupid? You don't understand anything.
That's not true.
Israel's actions.
That didn't happen either.
It's being inevitable.
Oh my God.
Like, when do you think they should have ended it? When do you think they should have ended it?
So who have ended what?
You've asked me the question, what should have Israel done? You tell me what they should have done. Do you think what they've done is right?
Well, I've clearly stated no, Sam.
Okay, so tell me what they should have done.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, hindsight is a beautiful thing. But in my opinion, like you said, I think some more specific strikes. I think more moving slowly, because as you kind of
just a slower
pointed
genocide.
out but didn't really acknowledge.
When do you think they should have ended?
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the leadership is obviously underground. So it's going to be a long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult mission. But I think militarily, they probably have some obligation to their citizenry, at the very least, to like take out but we're ignoring the fact that missiles are being shot into Israel nonstop. And I know you're going to say, Iron Dome stops most of them, which is true. But at the same time, I mean, a country needs to respond to that. They can't just allow missiles to be shot in.
Tell me the non-fantastical version of what they should have done. Should have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How many Hamas leaders, how many members of Hamas should they have killed before they leave? Because we know that Blinken said on his way out that virtually every Hamas member of Hamas that they've killed has probably been replaced by someone who's lost a family member or an entire family or whatnot. So you tell me, Ethan, if you're the one with the sensical perspective on this, and mine is fantastical, what should they have done that would have been appropriate in your mind?
Yeah. So besides like special operations and stuff, I think it would have been a good idea to, I think there's a space where they could like try to find peace partners in Gaza before just destroying the whole thing. Like, obviously they approached it completely wrong, right? But there are ways, I think, that could have happened that are realistic, like trying to forge some kind of
the principal negotiator who had never actually held a fucking weapon. They killed him at Tehran. This is ridiculous.
They were marching in the Great March of Return, week after week after week.
Sam, was there Hamas activity at the Great March?
Sinwar was marching. Sinwar was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
During the Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers, no, they weren't. So there were the people for peace.
Hamas activity at the Great
There
March
was
of Return.
Hamas activity. They were attacking the fence. They were like trying to cross the border.
They were
but not
attacking
militants. Militants were trying to cross the border.
That's not true.
You're telling me that in the first dozen of these marches, there were people attacking the fence?
Defending
Correct.
Sniping like paramedics at the Great March of Return, for the record. That's what he is de facto
But I mean,
defending.
again,
sniper rifles.
I think that there's a way for Israel to try. I think they can obviously pursue peace. The way that they're doing it is impossible, right? Like, it's fucked up. It's insane. It's genocidal. It's horrific.
They're not pursuing peace.
I'm not saying. I'm saying the opposite,
I don't
Sam.
think Israel is.
Well, you asked me
peace.
what should they have done. I mean, obviously they're not pursuing peace. I agree with you. Like, quite the opposite. That's not what they're doing. But I'm saying there could have been a path, although it's not. I think, unfortunately, I think their response was inevitable based on everything that happened.
You think it was inevitable that they would kill these many people and they would use food supplies as a weapon, that they would have leveled hospitals and universities and 80-90% of the homes? I mean, how
I don't know to what extent, but a huge response was definitely inevitable. I'm not justifying it, Sam. You asked me a question. I'm answering it. You're putting this on me like I'm saying.
No. I'm just saying inevitability. I wonder
right here.
What you must think of an Israeli body politic where this level of atrocity is inevitable.
Well, you described your and Hamas's understanding of the IDF. I wouldn't say that. I can't say to what extent, but you agree that a huge response was inevitable. You know, Hamas knew that they were going to bomb the fuck out of Gaza.
Listen, I would imagine Hamas thought there was going to be a response, but they wouldn't have taken hostages if they thought that they couldn't use those hostages as a way
of course they thought they could. I don't deny that. Yeah.
Of deterring Israel from entering. And that was a miscalculation on their part. They presumed that Israel was more interested in those hostages, I think, than they had assumed.
Well, and that's part of what a lot of the civil unrest in Israel is about, is that a lot of people do care about the hostages and think that the government needs to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last
Sam
part.
Seder, what a fucking nightmare with Ethan saying
which
it.
part?
The part about the killing of innocent civilians. I mean, I think that
I said that's what they're doing.
No. I'm saying I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die?
I think the Israelis. I mean, obviously not all Israelis.
There's definitely
but
a lot
I think
of,
that
there are definitely a lot of Israelis that do want the Israeli civilians to die, and certainly the Gazan civilians to die as well.
To maintain this government.
Yes.
Believe
That's what the polls
that,
say. Ethan loves his polls when he's
Palestinians in
talking about
Gaza,
Zionism.
that their lives have no value, that they are all future enemies, that they that they all represent the threat to
Sam?
Israel. And I think
Oh
that's,
yes, Sam. Speak for everyone.
I mean, I think that's.
They're so mad at Sam Seder. They literally
a twisted perspective.
Before this conversation took place, I need you to understand. Their subreddit was talking
just
about
so you
how
know,
Ethan should
there were
Sam
massive
Seder me because they thought that
in
Ethan
Israel,
and Sam Seder would be in
tens of
agreement with
thousands
one
of
another.
people in a
And now
country
they're
that's
fucking calling him
relatively
a
small.
self-hating Jew
So
and
I
shit.
think characterizing like the majority of
audacity.
the public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally. But you know.
I feel
I
Ethan
guess
is
you,
far
you,
less
you
extremist
can say
than
whatever
I mean,
you
I'm
want.
basing
I
this
mean, I know
on
you're gonna
conversations
because
with
you feel that way because
you know,
he was trying to present himself in this conversation as someone who is actually pro-Palestinian
that
in an
there
effort to
does
use
not
that
seem to be
agreement with Sam
in
against
Israel
me on Friday. And even then, it
a-
unfolded pretty quickly
a
when he got a little
majority,
bit
at
of
the very
pushback,
least,
not realizing that Sam has
of
very
people
Sam has
who
opinions almost
are,
identical to mine on this issue because that's what every
concerned
fucking
about
well-read person
the
on this matter would
fate
think
of
if
the
they have a fucking
Palestinians in
humanity.
Gaza. Certainly, they want hostages, and again, not all Israelis. But you know, look, I can make analogous assessments of the United States at various times about things that reflect poorly on our national body politic as well. But you know, the proof is in the pudding.
Can I tell you something? 300,000 protesters in Tel Aviv, 200,000 in the rest of the country. That's 500,000 people out in the street protesting the government of a country that has maybe 6 million or 5 million in the.
Are you talking about the protests about the judiciary?
I'm talking about the.
That's what he's talking about. Those weren't
to release the hostages.
No, the hostage
Okay, to
protests weren't
release
that
the
big.
hostages.
Yeah.
But even, I don't think the hostage protests were that big, but it doesn't
It's a
matter. It was
ceasefire.
pretty large.
Ceasefire,
But
Sam.
those
That's what
people
that means.
literally still turned around and,
half a
according to
million.
polls, said they want the
were
violence to continue in Gaza. They just
calling
want to
for a
stop it for
ceasefire?
now.
Or they were calling for a release of the hostages.
Well, what's the point of telling Hamas to release the hostages? Yeah, of course it's a ceasefire, Sam.
Well, but Israel has, and I know I'll look this up.
Deal with this.
I don't have much
500,000
time.
Israel.
Wait. Let's look this up and see how many times
about the
the
pro-rape
Israeli
rights.
government has said return of the hostages will not end.
Sam, I'm
the attacks.
responding to
Israel
you
just
saying the
broke.
majority of Israelis
Israel
want
just
civilians
broke.
to die. 500,000
Israel-
people came to the street for
Israel
a
just-
ceasefire of a country of 5 million, Sam. That's
Israel
10%.
Israel just broke the latest ceasefire. Okay, where is the political response from the Israeli people? I mean, the idea
is this Israelis
that
or Israeli
Gazans can be
Jews?
held responsible for an election that happened 18 years ago.
Sam, you
when
said the
half the
majority of
population is
Israelis
living in-
want civilians to die.
That's
I think the majority of Israelis do not have a problem with what's going on in Gaza. That is my opinion.
I think that
That's from
unfortunately
May
might be
30th.
true to the extent that they've gotten
Well, then we agree.
About
they've
right,
gotten
not
much
gone
more
far enough,
radical.
39% to
Unfortunately,
34%.
tragically, everybody's been a lot more radicalized since
That's
October
what I'm-
7th.
that's
and
what I'm
that's
saying.
tragic. I agree. I think people in Israel are jaded and they're cynical and they don't care, like you said, and I think it's tragic.
Yes, well, that's what my contention was. I mean,
Yeah, so
I'm
why
looking
are
at
you
something
defending
from
that,
May.
Ethan?
I wouldn't say most of them want to kill civilians, though.
Well, I think that they don't.
And I wouldn't say that there isn't a sizable portion of of Israeli citizenry that want a ceasefire. When 500,000 people, Sam,
dude, Ethan should talk to an Israeli anti-Zionist. It will probably melt him. Okay. Ethan
This
should
Pew
talk to
research,
like a Meservot guy or Dr. Ofer Kasef. He will literally melt on the spot.
34%.
He should ask an Israeli anti-Zionist, an Israeli Jew who's an anti-Zionist, what their take is on Israeli society, because they say some fucking they say way worse shit about their own country.
But you know, that's all the most
it's
recent.
horrible.
Or maybe he should talk to a therapist. Honestly, I don't know why he's
know
doing all this.
that the
because
sentiment
if
there-
he was doing the way he
last
thought
year
it
said
was,
that Israelis should govern the Gaza Strip.
I know that people.
I don't know what's left now.
Yeah, I agree. It's tragic what's happened, because I agree with you that they've become jaded and they've become very comfortable with the idea of violence happening there in general, right? And I think it sucks. I think it sucks is an understatement. I think it's tragic, and like I don't know what. Truthfully, the situation is so fucked up that, and like,
yeah, it's just really
it
fucked
just
up.
feels hopeless sometimes. But
It
I guess you're
certainly
conceding.
does. But in the meantime, you know, in this country, and we may not have the opportunity for a while, but we should cease all aid to Israel. We should stop protecting them in the UN. We should stop trying to pressure the ICJ and the ICC, and that's, you know.
well, incidentally, I agree with all those things too. I think
do
that's
you?
the most we can do as a country to try to stop
what
the
do
war.
you disagree
and
with
it's
me on,
something
Ethan?
that we should be
I mean,
doing.
there are some significant
you know,
disagreements,
and,
even that you brought
I think
up in
Kamala
this
Harris would have been a
conversation.
lot more likely to do something on that front. But you know, certain
We won't know.
we can't know, and that's the
no.
great thing.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I gotta go because I'm
Absolutely.
supposed to have dinner for my child. But,
Well, I'll say this. This was way more combative than I expected. Ultimately, though, I don't think that what do we disagree on? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe I see too much good in the Israeli population. I mean, I don't know what's
he's
the
trying
ultimately
he's trying
the
to get a clip.
disagreements
He's
here.
trying to farm it. See?
Well, I mean, yes, there was a protest last year. 500,000 people who wanted the hostages back. And,
I thought you
Ceasefire.
would
know if
agree on
there's been-
everything.
Well, they wanted the hostages back. You know, I don't know.
It's not a
how we
magic
can-
wand. It's a ceasefire.
Yeah, and they got a ceasefire, and then the Israeli government broke it, and they.
Well, so hold on.
I don't
Our
see people
disagreements
pouring
is that
into the street.
I'm too optimistic about the Israeli
No,
citizenry.
no.
I'm not here to adjudicate what.
I'm just trying to
differences
summarize
are
our
on the-
conversation. That's all.
No,
Well,
he's
I
just
mean,
trying to get a
you
clip.
summarize for you. I'll summarize for me. Okay.
Sam, I do appreciate you calling in. I do value your input on all this, and I appreciate the conversation. I think it's good to have conversations like this, like open and honest, even if they're combative. And I think ultimately on the larger points we agree, but we managed to find things to fight about anyway. And
Take it easy, man.
have a great time with your children at dinner there. Enjoy.
Ooh.
I will.
I mean, I'll have the convo now if he wants to. By the way, I'll talk to Ethan right now if he wants to. Oh, he said.
But okay.
He said that was way different than what I thought it was going to be.
I enjoyed that as a watcher.
Was I owned?
I don't think you were owned. I don't think anybody was owned. I think it was two people that are highly opinionated hashing it out. And I think I personally like when people do that.
Yeah.
I don't get